Hi, you guys. Welcome to the workshop today. I'm Allie Wilkins. We are going to be talking about sacred leadership and how you can step into your sacred leadership just in your everyday average life, making small, easy shifts that you do every single day. So we're going to be talking about a couple of different kind of like themes here. We're going to start off going into the history of our leadership and how things have gone so wrong. I shouldn't laugh because it's true, right? There's so much that we don't know. If you don't know me, I am obsessed with like ancient Egypt. I'm obsessed with studying mysticism and really like not the religion, but the spiritual beliefs of lots of different ancient cultures. Like I just eat all of this stuff up and I love studying it and learning about it in any way that I can, whether it's, in the Akashic records, through books, through experiences, through mystery schools, initiations, anything, I'm up for it. And I've learned so much about leadership through this type of work. And we really don't know so much, and so much has been hidden from us. So I want to kind of take us through a quick look at what's happened that's deteriorated our form of leadership, and then move into how you can show up as a leader in your life, how you can determine what's important for you and what causes you want to stand for, and how you can spread the message about those, but also just make small changes. The basis of all of this is that we're all leaders, we're all influencers. It doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers or you have 10. It doesn't matter. You're influencing people even just through your energy alone. Even if you just sat in your house all day and never left, your energy influences the planet and changes things vibrationally. So I think that we have a lot of subconscious programming that we aren't leaders, that only people with, especially now in the social media age, like, oh, only people who, have this many followers, or only people with these sorts of talents, like, have any impact. Like, no, no, no. You have impact just by breathing. Your vibration is a part of the collective consciousness. So when one person raises their consciousness, even if you were like a hermit living in a cave, you raising your consciousness, actually, ironically, there's hermits in caves. And in the past, a lot of us spiritual beings have chosen, especially in the last 2000 years, to leave the matrix, to leave this sort of life that was created, because they're like, we need to harness the consciousness, but we'll see you in the cave. Like, we'll see you in 100 years, you know? Um, renunciants, and we renunciated money and power, and that's not something that we can do anymore. And I'm just like, I love talking about this stuff so much, and I love diving in. So now it's time for us to come back into this leadership, because um when I say us, I mean people with good hearts, people who care about the earth and humanity and animals and the vibration of love, not the vibration of scarcity, lack, having power over other people, or I mean, obviously harming the earth or harming others. And there's just so much unconsciousness around how certain things impact others and impact the world. And profit is unfortunately chosen as the number one value in like so much of our culture. So, and I also want to point out, this happens in, like, you might just be blaming big companies for doing this, but you also have to look at this in your own life. Where do you put money over like other values that you have? Are you working a job that you hate just for the money? It's very, very, very easy to blame other people for harming the planet, for harm. And of course, there's, bigger amounts of impact in certain cases. But where are you blaming other people when truly, like, if you really look in the mirror, you're doing the same thing? So it's important for us to look at that too, because our individual actions create a big ripple effect. So, I mean, gosh, there's so many things we can talk about. So, I'm going to do this workshop here today in the Open Mind Society. I'm also going to be doing a free 3-part masterclass to go more into this, because there's way more that I want to cover than just in this hour. So, if you want to sign up for that, it's going to be, I haven't chosen a date yet, but you can always get a replay if you can't join live. It's going to be at the end of October. So you can go to my website, alliewilkins.com. Actually, it will be on miracles.alliewilkins.com/sacred leader class. So you can go there if you want to sign up, or just go to my Instagram at allie.wilkins, ALY, and you can sign up there in the link in my bio, because I'm going to be breaking things down a little bit more there in a longer period of time. So anyways, let's get started with looking at the ancient form of leadership. So a lot of us right now have significant trauma around power, the idea of power, the idea of holding influence over others. Look at in the last 2,000 years, because this is a lot of historically what we have the most evidence for of like what's happened, right? So look at the last 2,000 years, but really it's been the last 5,000 where power has started to be completely manipulated. Power has turned into this thing that's like, I have power over you. I make decisions for you. I choose this for you. And it's a lot of us, if we really look deeply, we associate with someone who has power as a negative connotation. And think about how you think about people who hold the highest amounts of power. A lot of the times we're not like, they're so great, you know? So, and also just, I work in the Akashic Records a lot, and I go so often past life stuff comes in with how you are being affected, things that are affecting you from past lifetimes in this lifetime. And so much of that stems from power, like toxic power dynamics. So, my gosh, I could go into so many things here. Let's look back like 8,000 years ago, 6 to 8,000 years ago. In ancient Egypt, the prophets, and you can even look at this in cultures like Tibet and India, like so many different cultures have honored the same thing, but it's no longer really in existence, but it used to be. The leader of the country was actually the most spiritually adept. They were actually the most spiritually conscious person. Now, when you hear me saying that in today's terms, you might be like, oh, they have, this big ego. They think that they're this spiritually conscious person. It's like, no, they are the closest to God, and they're holding the consciousness of the whole civilization. For like literally, they truly wanted the wellness of the civilization, and they were holding that consciousness within. And so this person naturally cares about the impacts of everything. This was also before our forms of technology. There were actually much more advanced forms of technology working with energy. They were far more sacred and way less detrimental, not detrimental at all, very natural, right? So we've gone from that, and there was slowly this disintegration of power, or this disintegration into like power then becoming corrupted. And that happened around, you look at the time of like Moses, you can see that's around the timeline when this corruption started. And essentially like the end of the golden ages, that was starting to happen. So that's a big topic in itself. I don't want to get too into that, but it's important to look at like our leaders used to be the ones who were they were stewarding the wealth of the whole civilization and all meanings of the word wealth. They were stewarding the civilization's like ability to thrive. They weren't after profits. They weren't after like their own self-interest. And this is a huge problem that we see today. So it slowly disintegrated. And really this was because of the removal of the Divine Mother. This is because the Divine Feminine principle was removed. And so as that started to happen, I think of myself as a priestess. And I know that I've been a priestess in many, many, many lifetimes. It's what I'm most passionate about. Being a priestess basically means you're devoted to the mother, you're devoted to a particular deity. And for me, I'm devoted to the Divine Mother principle and the Divine Feminine principle, and bringing that back into our society. So what that would look like is doing things with a conscious, basically, like bringing love and beauty and this sacred, like, I want to be a steward of the earth. I want to take care of the earth. I want to nurture the earth, the animals, the plants, the humans, like all of it. I don't want anything that I do to harm anyone. And having that be really the first value. So today, we've been living in a toxic patriarchy for over 2,000 years. Around 4,000 years ago, it really started to disintegrate, but the last 2,000 years are known as the Dark Ages. So it's been the worst than it has been in the last 2,000 years. We don't see the goddess anywhere. We don't see the Divine Feminine principle anywhere. And when we see it, it's typically depicted through a patriarchal view of what they view as acceptable. When I say they, I don't mean men. I mean this toxic masculine energy, which we all hold because we've been raised in it. How can we not hold it? So this is a whole nother workshop. So we all hold this, and when we bring the divine feminine, it helps to balance that out and start to heal both the masculine and feminine energies. But we don't have any feminine energy really in our society or in our leadership. There's very few examples. What I was saying before is like the patriarchy they're like, we will allow this view of the goddess. And you see the goddess as being very seductive, very sensual, very like, if you think about the pictures on Instagram, if you look up divine feminine, it's going to be so many pictures of nearly naked women. Like, not that that's wrong, that's beautiful, but there's not many images of the goddess, the dark goddess that's raging with fire and is like, a dragon with fire coming out of her mouth. That is a huge part of the feminine energy, this fierce protector energy. So yeah, we need to bring back the sacred form of leadership. And how we do that is bringing the feminine energy back into our lives and into really all elements of our life. So how do we do that? Let me take a breath. So first, what I want you to sit with and really understand is like, I am a powerful leader. Exactly where I am right now, exactly what I'm doing right now. I have impact, I have influence, and I'm a powerful leader. And my actions change things. So the easiest place to look at this is in your shopping habits and your purchasing patterns, right? What are you shopping for? What type of brands do you buy? Of course, sometimes money is involved in this. I mean, always, but what you, in quotes, can afford. But for example, I was vegan for a while, and then I was like, well, my body's like really craving, after like a year of being vegan, my body was really craving more protein. And so I started to incorporate other things, but I didn't feel well when I ate meat. So I don't purchase meat from the store. I'm not a diehard vegetarian. Like if I go home and my mom makes, well, I have like crab legs when I go home because that's a tradition with my dad, and I really enjoy it and I love it. And I honor the crab, and like literally I'm like, thank you, I appreciate your sacrifice. Like, this is the divine feminine energy coming in, like noticing that this life is here, and it's not just some random thing for me to eat, that there was a sacrifice involved, and I'm like, thank you. But my point is, I'm never going to go buy crab legs at the store. I'll go to dinner with my dad because that's a tradition that him and I have. Or if my mom buys Chick-fil-A nuggets, I might eat them, but I'm not going to go to Chick-fil-A and buy a sandwich myself. If it's in front of me, I might eat it because I'm not impacting the purchasing pattern. When I go to the store, I'm not going to go buy chicken. I'm not going to go buy beef. I'm not going to go buy any of that, because to me, I don't want to be eating animals. I don't want to be eating animals, and I don't want to encourage that. And my shopping habits then inform the grocery store. There's, in general, when we look at the sales of meat, it's going down. Maybe we should start buying other forms of, vegetarian meats, or maybe we should start looking for other brands that produce like, the Beyond Meat burgers, which I also don't like those, but other forms of faux meats or of other forms of protein, because we're seeing a decline in sales in this. Or you purchasing the thing that comes in a glass jar instead of the thing that comes in plastic because you don't want to use plastic anymore. So there's so many things in our shopping behaviors that we have so much impact over. We are in control when it comes to what's available on the shelves, right? Look at how many vegan products are available now compared to 10 years ago or 20 years ago. There's so many more options because people demanded it. Look at the toothpaste industry. Now there's so many forms of fluoride-free toothpaste because people demand it, and they're like, I'm not going to buy this. I want fluoride-free. I will go to this other store to get it, or I will order online from the store that carries a fluoride-free toothpaste. We have such power over this. So this is like the easiest way. When you go to the store, it's like, do I want to support this type of a company? And no matter what your budget is, you can do this on some level. So another example, When I go to the grocery store, you know, those like little bags that you get to put fruit in, everyone just throws those away. It's like, that's so much plastic. You can easily reuse those. So I save them. I put them back in my little tote bag. I bring tote bags, like I'm sure you do. Now this is a norm. When you go to the grocery store, you bring tote bags. So we're not using as many plastic bags. So I just put those bags back in my tote bag and I reuse them the next time. Or I'll use them for something like I use a lot of herbs, or like for example, like for example, I cut a lot of basil. So I'll put the basil stems in this bag, and then I have this bag of like, I guess you could call it like compost, and I'll actually take it out to this lake behind my house, and I dig it into the earth so that those nutrients can go back into the earth instead of just sitting in the trash can. And so that's another way that I'm bringing the feminine principle in, like, Mama Earth, I want to nurture you with these nutrients. Here you go. Or the little birdies that might come over. If I have extra bread and I put them in an area where there's not people, where they're not going to be like harassing people, and I put my extra stuff over here so these birdies can eat it, or something that's actually like berries or something, you know. I don't do berries, I eat those, but so it's having this sense of consciousness about what you're doing, in awareness. And a step before that, I'm sure if you're, you know, I'm sure that you watching this are probably already aware of ingredients and things like that in your food, but looking for certain chemicals in your food and your hair and your products, like your hair stuff, your makeup, your anything that you use on a consistent basis. Like, what are the things that we buy? Okay, I buy dish soap. Like, you know, I'm always buying dish soap when it runs out. Like, I need dish soap. So what are the values that I hold that I want the company that I'm supporting to have? I want it to be cruelty free. I don't want there to be fragrance in it. I don't want there to be these toxic chemicals, number one, that are bad for me, that I don't want to be ingesting into my skin, but also that I want to entice the company into like using natural ingredients. So I'm going to purchase from brands that do that. So we can do this so easily. These are just like a couple of easy things. With makeup, I switched to Arbonne, and I only use Arbonne makeup for the most part because I trust the brand. Unfortunately, so many companies say, like, coming from a marketing background, my career used to be in marketing, and you can pretty much say whatever you want. Some industries have regulations on it, but like when you look at essential oils are a really great example, because I don't think they're a regulated market quite yet. When you look at essential oils, like if you, God forbid, buy essential oils from TJ Maxx or from Target or something, Target's not the worst, but get doTERRA. Anyways, when you look at the packaging, it's like 100% from natural sources or whatever, 100% natural fragrance. A lot of times, if you don't know, like if it's fragrance, it's not an essential oil. You have to get really committed to looking at what's on your product, looking at the ingredients of things. So this is a way that we step into leadership, because it's like, okay, for me, cruelty-free items are very important. You can, like, do you know that most shampoos aren't cruelty-free? They're tested on animals. Many countries have banned this. I don't think the US has. I haven't really looked at this stuff in a few years because I used to be really into it. Now I just don't buy stuff unless it has there's a little label that has a rabbit on it, and that's how you know if it's cruelty-free. I just don't buy stuff if it doesn't have that on it. Now, that's a cause that I really care about. So I've devoted the time to looking at it and researching it and looking at the companies that also care about that. Or for example, skincare company, I use this company called Paula's Choice. I love their products. And you know why? Because they actually educate you about a lot of the fallacies in the skincare industry. Their packaging is recyclable. I forget the terms that they use, but it's like, it's recyclable packaging, which most skincare stuff isn't. It's vegan, it's completely vegan, but they actually tell you about the ingredients and what they do. And I've learned so much about skincare since, I don't want to say joining it, because it's not like it's just like a regular company, but since using their products, I've learned so much more about skincare. And so I want to support brands and companies that care about the earth. So how often can I do that? We need to educate ourselves about this. And the more that we do this, the more that this is how we change the world truly in a big way. When I purchase from companies that don't have toxic chemicals in them, that's less toxic chemicals going into the waterways. That's less toxic chemicals going into my body. I'm going to feel better. Right. So yeah, there's so many different benefits. So I would say, number one, think about what are the most important things to you? What are the important causes that are close to your heart that you really care about? So this might be like animals, you really care about animals, or it might be you really care about the environment, or it might be you really care about like racial injustice, or you really care about like women's rights, or you really care about, like, there's so many different choices, right? There's so many things that you could like, what do you want to shift in the world? What is most important to you, and how can you make an impact in that? So for example, I really love the rainforest. Like, that's something that I feel very close to home, that I feel that I really want to make an impact in my lifetime in supporting the conservation of the rainforest. So there's actually hotels that they have these ratings, and it's like Rainforest Alliance, I forget exactly what it's called, but they have like this Rainforest Alliance certification if the products that they're using aren't, and the way that they build the hotel isn't harming the rainforest or isn't using materials from the rainforest. And I'm like, yeah, if there's a choice between booking at this place or booking at this place that's rainforest certified, I'm going to choose this one. So there's all these little things we can do to make an impact. And creating small shifts, and then even just sharing information with people. It doesn't mean you have to be like knocking on people's doors like, have you heard about the cruelty-free label? But talking to people about it, because so much of this, unfortunately, you really have to educate people about. Like, look at the video cowspiracy that came out, I feel like 10 years ago or something, maybe even longer. That created such a huge wave of veganism, like, if that's the word. It created such an impact. That's because one person, and I'm sure that there was a team of people, but one person had the idea to do that and was steadfast in it, and look at the impact that created. So what do you want to impact? It might not be on that level, but it doesn't matter. One little person. I always share this story about my cousin when I talk about this, because probably like, I don't know, like 8 years ago or something, we were walking down the street and I looked for her. I looked behind and she wasn't there. And I was like, where'd she go? And she had gone way off in the distance. She saw this like a bunch of like water bottles or something on the ground in this parking lot. And she went all the way over there to go pick them up and throw them away. And it just always stuck with me. She didn't say anything. She wasn't like, hey, I'm so great, I'm going to go I'm going to clean up the earth. No big deal. Like, don't reward me or anything. She just did it, didn't say a word, but I noticed. Or when I've done things where I pick up, that then influenced me to want to clean up my community, because I noticed that certain areas were trash. So I went out and joined these different groups that would clean up trash. And people would be like, wow, this is so great. Like, I'm going to start doing this. Like, you're influencing people all the time, even if you say nothing. So what do you want? How do you want the world to change? And how can you like make a little tiny impact of that? Because it's not so tiny. It really isn't. Okay. So next topic. So that's kind of how we can lead personally, getting educated about what's important to us, making small shifts in our daily life and sticking to those shifts. But so much of it is just education. Once you learn certain things, you're like not going to want to support certain companies. And it's also looking at, how do the companies treat their employees? How do these companies support their community? I love when you go into Trader Joe's and it's like, we've supported like we've sent $110,000 into the community this year, or whatever it is. It's like they give back to the community. They care about that. I'm happy to shop here and support them. I'd rather do that than go to Kroger. And I don't know what Kroger does because I haven't looked it up. I haven't been educated, but I'd rather go to Trader Joe's and get certain things because they're supporting the community and they care. So also sometimes that's going to mean investing a little bit more money into certain products, because if you're a business owner, you know how much money it takes to create things like using glass over plastic. That's going to cost a company way more money. So that cost is going to, come back to you and what you pay for that product. But what's the impact of that? What's the impact of that? That plastic's not going to be sitting there. Also, like with glass stuff that you're buying, how can you reuse these things? Because glass, we don't need to just toss it. I talk about all the time, I reuse glass jars for so many different things. I make a lot of my own like oils and like bath salts and things like that. So I'll use my old spaghetti jars for that type of stuff, or even like salsa jars that come in glass, and I'll like reuse as much as you possibly can. There's so many things I could talk about here, but okay, next subject. So the next part of this is like, there's two other things that I kind of want to speak to in this workshop. And taking responsibility for your consciousness is really important. Like, it's very easy for you to be like, oh, well, the amount of plastic used isn't my problem. Like, it is. You are a consumer that is purchasing plastic. And just as an example, like, there was this guy, Adam Roa, he did like a 30-day challenge or something. I can't really remember. He did this challenge that he was like, any plastic I use, I have to put it in this backpack and carry it everywhere. And he was like, the backpack was full so fast. It was so hard it's so hard to find things that aren't in plastic. Like, everything, it seems, comes in plastic. So anyways, bringing it into your consciousness that like, I am a steward of the wealth of the planet. I am a steward of the health of the environment. How am I contributing? I can blame all of these major gas companies, and I can blame all these, companies that are spilling oil into the oceans. And I can blame like all of these big companies for creating waste. But am I looking at myself? Am I looking at my own usages of things? Am I looking at when it's, God forbid, if you're someone who litters, don't follow me. Like, just kidding. But like, stop littering, because it's horrible. It's like that, to me, that's like my biggest pet peeve, because it's just like, there is zero care for the earth. If you're throwing shit out the window and you don't care, wait to find a trash can. It's not difficult. Anyways, personal problem I have. So we are the change. We are the change. There's a lot more of us in our civilization than there are leaders. And we have all of the power. The problems come in when when we consider the leadership to have power over us. No. We have our own power internally, and we are able to make our own sovereign choices. Sometimes it's based on the circumstances given, but we're able to make our own sovereign choices. No one has power or control over you. It's an illusion that they do. And you give into this, it's been so programmed into us that we give into this fear, like, oh, sure, master. Like, no, you're in charge of yourself. And how do you choose to be a steward of the earth? How do you choose to be a steward of humanity? How do you choose to be a steward of civilization? What do you care about? Now let's go into the conversation about your gifts. Okay, because this is really when we can step more into like, I don't want to say like the real term of leader, because that's not accurate, but it's like, this is where we can become more external leaders, where we're actually perhaps leading other groups or leading other sorts of like people in your business, or in, a lot of you guys watching this are probably coaches, healers, etc. So using our gifts in the most sacred way. And this is also where our consciousness has to come in, because that toxic form of masculinity is seeped into, we've learned this from birth. That's been around for the last 2,000 years in a strong way. This complete disregard for nature. Look at the amount of people who don't think that climate is important. That tells you itself there's a complete disregard and a complete separation, that earth is different from me. Like, it's all the same. It's all energy. Everything is all one. Like, I am in everything. I'm in this way. I'm in this plant back here. I'm in, how was this pillow created? Who created this? Was it someone in like a sweatshop that made it? And we can be aware of these things and do the best that we can. So, using your gifts, there will have to be a lot of shadow work that comes along with using your gifts. Now, in the very beginning, this might look like, you're afraid to use your gifts. Maybe you've had, like I see a lot in the work I do, like people with past lifetimes of being a witch or being healers or being like outsiders, you could say, in society, and they were harmed for that. They were killed for that. They were, you know, they weren't safe. And so you might now in this lifetime, or just because of your upbringing or whatever, or because you just are scared, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the reason why. You might be afraid of using your voice. You might be afraid of speaking your truth. You might be afraid of using your gifts. There could be a million reasons why you're afraid of actually using them and you're not using them. But here's the thing, when we stifle our gifts, this is what I've seen with other people and with myself. When we stifle our gifts, we're stifling our flow of abundance because they're natural and innate to us. And it's like we're going against that natural flow. So there's going to be so much shadow work when you really step into your true sacred leader. Like, you know, making the different purchases at the store doesn't really impact, like, that's probably not going to be scary for you. It's just more so of like a time involvement. How much am I willing to educate myself? But when you step into the sacred leader, speaking your truth, when it might be wildly unpopular, there's going to be stuff that comes up for you, and you have to be willing to look at that, and some dark things might come up, and you have to be willing to look at that and move through it. So then on the next level, it might be, something a little bit like, oh, I'm noticing these toxic, like patriarchal things that are in the way that I'm running my business. Oh, like I don't let me take these out. And it's as we become more attuned to the feminine energy, we'll start to notice where these things are leaking in, because I promise you, they're leaking into a lot of areas of your life, even if you think that they're not. And the subtle ways that we do things, you know, the toxic form of the feminine energy is control, manipulation. So there might be a lot of ways that you're doing things, whether it's in your business or whether it's in your relationships with others, that you would never call control or manipulation, but they, on a very subtle level, there's a hint of that. And so whether you have a business or not, stepping into your sacred leader requires that you look at, why am I not showing up in my fullness? Why am I dimming? I hate the phrase dimming your light, because it's just like, I don't hate it, that's a strong word, but it's like just so cliche. But where are you allowing your fear to dim your voice, to not like express yourself fully? And this is, of course, the perfect place for you to be, to learn how to do that, and to have support in expressing yourself. And what I would say is, the leaders that you really admire, the people you really admire, are they like, how do they show up in the world? Do you appreciate that they show up in their fullness? Lady Gaga, I love looking at her as an example. You know, like, she went to a award show wearing a dress made of meat. Like, that takes balls. Like, that takes being so comfortable with yourself. But look at the impact that people who fully express themselves, they draw in their soul tribe so easily, because they're not being fake, they're being themselves. And when you're being authentic, and when you're expressing all of your gifts, that's truly what can change the world. Because I just really believe that you were created perfectly. We were all created perfectly. And when we try to take certain gifts out of the equation, like, oh, well, this is a little too much for that, for my job or for this person or for my partner, so I'm just not going to incorporate that. I'm going to leave that part out. No problem. Or my parents said that I was like looking for too much attention, or my parents said this or that. We have to get rid of all of that. And truly, I believe being a sacred leader is, number one, being able to authentically express your full self, have no shame, no fear in doing so, which takes time and practice, and like truly getting to know yourself. You know, it's like when you're 20, you're not going to know yourself that way. You're going to know yourself at 30 a lot more than you know yourself at 20, because you have more experience. So some of this is just time. But the other part of this, the sacred leader, is taking into consideration, what are my values? What is the impact I want to create in the world? How do I want to positively impact the world? Not just looking at, how am I going to have a 6-figure year, a 7-figure year, a 6-figure month? How am I going to, like, how am I actually impacting people? Am I leaving people better than I found them in your business and your personal life and all of these things? So this is kind of an introduction, I guess, maybe to those master classes, because there's so much to talk about here, going more into the ancient mysteries, going more into looking at our money and how our use of money really impacts so many things. And also I'm creating a program. It's called Divinely Funded. This is overlaid by several different goddesses. And basically it's a 16-week program. It's a 4-month group program where we're going to be looking at, like, how do we become divinely funded, where spirit and source is working through us and we are fully supported in our desires. We are fully supported in our desires. It's no longer up to you or up to us, like, I have to create this month. We trust that spirit will provide it for us. That doesn't mean that spirit's going to provide it while you sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Maybe sometimes that's what you need, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, when we're in our sacred mission and we're using our gifts, you will be provided for. And so this course is really going to help you with money mindset, with alchemizing your frequency around money, with developing a wealth consciousness, with stepping into your soul mission, and then also creating new realities and, like, learning how to work in this energy to make sure that you're fully supported. Because you, especially when you're operating out of service, you need to be fully supported. You need to be able to do the things that allow you to be in your highest vibration so that you can serve at the highest level. So we're going to be, like, rewiring a lot of these belief systems and just going into this frequency of being divinely funded and what that's like and how we can create that in our life, utilizing all of the energy of the goddesses and basically an energy that's much more powerful than us, not relying on ourselves to do it, knowing that this is like a cosmic force that's wanting to come through us. So working with that energy as well. So anyways, that's going to be starting November 11th. So follow me on Instagram and you can keep up with that. There's going to be an early bird special in the next week or so. Depending on when you watch this, it'll be like the last week of October. But just keep an eye on my Instagram and you'll see all about that. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or you want to dive deeper with this and any of this with me, message me on Instagram. And yeah, just remember that you're so impactful just in your essence and in your vibration. And you truly are influencing many, many people around you, even if you don't think you are. So, all right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.